We welcome our viewers in the Gambia and beyond. This is News Review. My name is Lamin Jai. International Day for Universal Access to Information has been marked in the Gambia. We have a report on that also coming up. Gambians have been reacting to the move there by some members of the coalition who met President Adama Barrow, where they pledged to back the Gambian leaders' 5 years ambition there. We have been speaking to some Gambians. These and more, but first I will begin with the papers. I have Keksane will go through some of the things that the papers are reporting today. I'll also be speaking with Amadou Kamara. Amadou Kamara is a political analyst based in the United States. Also, I'll be possibly talking to Bakari Baji. Team Bakari Baji also met President Barrow last Friday, where they also pledged to support the president on his 5 years ambition there. Let's start with the papers then. I have the Standard as well as the Point. The Standard lead story today is saying absence of UDP and PDIS will not invalidate Barrow's mandate. That's their lead story there. Also, the Standard is reporting that GPU mourns Ahmed Karayol. Ahmed Karayol is a veteran journalist who died a few days ago. Also, NAMS trained on legislative scrutiny. Also, Jammeh victims challenge government to deal with perpetrators. Also, Australia's FAR, increases stake in 2 Gambian offshore blocks. So, the lead story there is saying SR Damfa, a political aide to President Barrow and chairman of West Coast Region's coalition media team, has said that the absence of DAI, that's PDIS and UDP, from Friday's declaration extending Barrow's mandate will not invalidate that decision. The 2 parties are believed to have been the biggest players in the creation of Coalition 2016, but both have, for one reason or the other, not participated in the recent coalition talks to amend the MOU. While PDIS had said the spirit and principles of the MOU have long been violated, the UDP wanted the initial MOU signed first before any amendments can be made. Keks, what do you make of the Standard lead story there, saying this is SR Danfa, the political aide to President Adama Barrow, saying that, well, with or without UDP and DAI, the validation of President Adama Barrow for him to continue for until 2021 still is valid, it still remains. What do you make of this?
Thank you very much for having me once again on your platform. Yeah, I saw the article and I read it, but I would just treat it as an opinion from somebody who is supporting Adama Barrow. But if you look or you go to the history, the formation of the coalition since the inception, and you talk of PDOI's contribution and that of UDP contribution that leads to the change 2016. And if those people say they are not part of that, whatever the coalition is going to do, and you feel like that is nothing, it doesn't change anything when it comes to the coalition itself, that's something that that is just an opinion from somebody. But when you go real fact, you will understand that definitely the members of the coalition wish UDP and PDOIs could be part of whatever decision will be taken in regards to the coalition, because they know that they are the biggest players. When you come to the formation of the coalition, I am 100% so without UDP and PDOIs, we will not have the coalition that we have. Because these other political parties, I just see them as those who decided they were just part of the initiative because we want to have an umbrella unifying party that the whole nation could have seen him or herself in. That's why most of them were invited. But when it comes to numbers, those people will not even change anything. That's why you could see even during the primary election, some could not even have their 70 delegates. They have to go to other political parties to choose who will be their party delegates. So all those you could see others could not even produce 30 delegates. And when we were requiring for 70 delegates. So all these things are useful for DOI. Is his opinion as Adamfas is just speaking out of his opinion. But today, if you talk to Fatmata Tambajan, you talk to Barrow and DOI and UDP distancing themselves from the coalition, Barrow will tell you that this will have a serious impact in me because these people are the brain behind the coalition, or one can say these people, with having them in my camp will be more greater than having them outside the camp.
So let me ask you then, do you think it makes sense at all having this, what some people would call splinter group, coalition splinter group, going to President Barrow to, agree to back him on the 5 years plan, when in fact the president has said, with or without the coalition, he was minded to remain in office until 2021. Do you think it made sense at all for them to go to him?
Yeah, for me, actually, it doesn't make any sense to me, because, these people are just concentrated on one thing, which is the president to serve either 3 years or go in for the 5 years. But what constitutes the coalition is more than the 3 years itself. But none of them are interrogating that aspect to look at what are the agendas of the coalition, whether we have achieved this, what is the shortcomings of the coalition. There are so many things, and if you want to look at the context of the agreement, that's the 17th October agreement, it is not only the 3 years that is embedded in that agreement. There are so many things that are on that, but are they even interrogating that? No. They are not doing that. Whether the president will go after his transitional period, whether he will go for another term, all these things are not being addressed, and all these things were embedded in the agreement. So they are only concentrated on Adama Barrow continuing the 5 years. But after the 5 years, whether Adama Barrow will contest again in the next election, these things are there. During his tenure of office, he should not support any political party. And we have seen that, during his tenure of office, he has shown political affiliation to other political parties. These issues were never addressed. So you cannot just sit until the last minute when everything is spoiled and you don't want to interrogate what was the cause of where we are today. You don't want to look at that and accept your shortcomings and try to call the people and say, let's come and have a dialogue. Yes, I have a mistake. We agree on this and this and that. But, I feel as a leader, I could not adhere to the agreement, and I have done this and this and this, and I take the bold responsibility. But now, for the interest of this country, let's sit together and see how best we can amend whatever agreement we made by the virtue of the reality on the ground here. And I'm 100% sure that this way, but you cannot, Adama Barrow just sat down even before the negotiation start and make a declaration that for him is either the coalition, non the coalition. For him, he is going for the 5 years. Either we like it or not. Fatoumatta Tambadang Prado even organizing this meeting among the coalition members when he went for the inauguration ceremony of Macky Sall in Senegal. She was interviewed and she made it very clear, her position was very clear that, Barrow cannot, term cannot end within the 3 years, so Barrow must go for 5 years. Prior to even they have the negotiation. And as a chairperson of this committee, you should not take side. For you, it's the people that should decide. You are there to coordinate and, talk to among yourself until a decision is made before you will declare anything. But she went to Senegal and make this declaration that Adama Barrow definitely they will go and have a negotiation. But she is 100% so that, it's practically impossible for Barrow to resign in the 3 years. She is going for 5. So automatically, she have already made a position in this regard. So for me, even organizing the meeting, it has no use, because when she already make a position.
And one thing also that a lot of people talked about is the issue, the officials, for example, the people that he led to State House. Most of these people are not, in fact, serious, officials of the parties that they claim to be coming from, for example. And if you look at the parties that were represented at that meeting, these are parties that most people would point to and say these are one-man parties, or parties that virtually do not have any base. 4 parties. That was what was represented there out of the 7 political parties. We understand GMC also was not there, UDP plus UDP and DOI. What did you find, were you curious when you saw the faces, some of the people that you saw with the former vice president?
Yeah, actually, for me, when I saw the pictures on social media and I look at, whether I will recognize the face of the coalition that we know as the coalition 2016, but I can just point out who is there. You see Henry Gomez is there, who is, one can say, by the virtue of he is an advisor to the president and he's always at the State House, one could say that that's why he was there. But if you look at the key players in the coalition, you could not see UDP has represented, you could not see DOE has represented. Even GMC, I didn't see my party in the picture. You look at Ahmad Bah, he's not there. I didn't see, because right now the Ahmad Bah's deputy, I know him, and I could not see the deputy to say that, okay, Ahmad Bah, in the absence of Ahmad Bah, this is the person deputizing for Ahmad Bah. All those people are there. Who I could see is President Adama Barrow, PPP, Majanko Samusa, NCP, and that's enough. That's all what we can see. So for me, that's not the coalition 2016. Unless we have another new coalition different from the coalition 2016, I can say yes, then that's the coalition 2019 or whatever they want to call it. But for me, the original coalition 2016, I didn't see those people there. And it could have been better, like if they have communicated, because I made my findings to know whether other political parties prior to their meeting with the President Adama Barrow, they have consulted them to say that okay, this day we have decided that the meeting that we had at Kairaba, the conclusion or whatever we conclude there, today we are going to State House to communicate this to the President. So if you are interested, maybe there must be a change of mind, you might be interested to follow us so that we can go there. This was not communicated. So for me, it's just a group of individuals who have an agenda, based on whatever President they have with Adama Barrow, and they decide to go to State House claiming to be at the coalition 27.
So another report on the Standard is also saying Jammeh victims challenge government to deal with perpetrators. Adama Jallow, the National Coordinator, Gambia Center for Victims of Human Rights Violations, has challenged the government to hold perpetrators of human rights violations to account. Jallow made these observations at a capacity building workshop for the Victim Center on international standards and legal instruments to fight against impunity, organized by Institute for Human Rights and Development in Africa and funded by the European Union. What do you make of this? All the time we see victims coming, asking or calling on the government to perpetrators to hold them to account, to bring them to justice. Now that's what the same statement, that is what is coming out from the victims, that through the Victim Center, of course. Do you think the government has been doing this? We have seen a lot of calls being made, directed at the government. Do you think the government is towing the line of the victims in terms of them calling on them or the government to hold perpetrators to account?
Yeah, actually, for me, we have to understand the context in which the Truth and Reconciliation itself is established. For me, I'm 100% sure that this Truth and Reconciliation is purposely meant for the victims. But you cannot take any step without following the due process of the TRRC until they have finished all their investigation and all evidence are gathered, and they will come with a recommendation and send it to the government, and government will make their position very clear what they have to do. And one has to understand that this Truth and Reconciliation Commission too is not a court of law. In regard of whatever happens, we all know that these are factual reports that are imagined from the TRRC, and the victim deserve, because there will be no justice if you allow the perpetrator to go freely and without being faced justice, without being punished, because this the testimony that we are seeing in the TRRC, is human rights violation, abuse of power and so many things, and they must face justice. But we have to be very patient with the government to allow these people to finish whatever they are doing, so that we will know that the truth has been established, and they have advised the government whatever recommendation they will come up with. From there, I'm 100% sure that the government, because this is not about Barrow's government or anybody, this is about the victims, and I am very conscious, and I'm person who is in the side of the victim, that they should decide whatever will happen in regards to the 22 years of human rights abuse and so many things that have taken place in this country. So the victim has to decide whether they want to forgive or they want them to face justice. And if they decide that
is it your view that they are being a bit impatient in terms of the justice that they want?
Yeah, for me, because if you look at what happens and the testimonies that we are having, we are seeing in TRRC, or we are hearing in the TRRC Truth and Reconciliation, one will be eager, for those people to face justice, because you look at, the things that they have done to their family members or relatives and close to them. So for them, at the side of the victim, you can't blame them. For them, they are eager to see that, what their parents or whatever person is involved, how he go through, let these people to at least face something similar to that. So they will be eager eager to see that justice is prevailed. But everything is a process, and they have to allow the government to do the process so that it will not be seen as a witch hunt, but rather to be seen that justice is served. But if you rush, people might see it as a witch hunt rather than justice being served. And I'm sure government too is working through that direction. It's just that we understand their frustration, and we can blame them that definitely they are eager for justice to be prevailed. But I'm appealing to them, let them just take their time, and I'm sure something will be done. And all Gambian people want to see that justice is prevailed.
So Kex, you stay with us there, because I want us to also talk about tomorrow's meeting, the National Assembly session there. The Vice President would be at the National Assembly tomorrow to take part in the State of the Address debate. This thing has been going on, has been there for some time. We will talk about that and other issues. I'll also momentarily be speaking to Amadou Kamara. He's a political analyst based in the United States. But let's take a look at what the Point is reporting today. Point lead story is saying police arrest two with fake gold worth over $14 million. Also, government rejects Janneh Commission's recommendation to ban TK Motors TK export. Also, ex-PIU commander admits giving beating arrest orders rather. Supersonic extends magnanimity to Kanifing General Hospital. So the lead story on the Point is saying police have arrested Maimuna Bojang, a native of Sanchaba, Medina, and CD Trawale of Kersering with fake gold worth about $14,280,000. The Point can authoritatively report. The suspects were arrested at Senegambia on Friday, 27 September 2019 at around 11 a.m. They are currently detained at the police headquarters in Banjul as investigation into the matter continues. Also, the Point is reporting that on the excerpt of the 93-page report of the Commission of Inquiry that was established by President Adama Barrow in July 2016 to probe into the July 27, I think they meant to say July 2017 instead of July 2016, to probe into the financial activities of public bodies, enterprises, and offices as regards to their dealings with former President Yahya Jammeh. The government of Gambia has rejected the Commission's recommendation that TK Motors Limited, TK Export Limited, be banned from participating in any government procurement for 5 years. So that will be all for the papers. Now, Kex, let's turn to tomorrow's meeting. This debate was supposed to have it should have taken place, but for one reason or the other, the non-availability of the Vice President, of course it was the President who the lawmakers expected to appear before them. The President is insisting that it is his number two, that he wants to be at the National Assembly. So tomorrow is the session. What have you been observing?
Yeah, just as you said, we all know what transpired during the last 2-3 weeks ago. Only 1 week, so what should have been done, and it's not done because of the Vice President was not in town, and the President was not ready to come and face the National Assembly members in regards to the speech that he gave on the 19th of September. On Thursday to the National Assembly members. So according to the law, after the debate, the parliamentarians will be given a period of time to study the document itself and come and debate about whatever they feel like, for them, they have to scrutinize the whole speech and understand what is there, and they deserve answers if they have any objection in regards to the whole thing. So this should have been done last week, but the President didn't come and the Vice President was not in town, and according to the law, it's only the President or the Vice President that can speak on behalf of the President in the National Assembly. It's either the President or the Vice President, or the ministers can talk in regards to their ministry, but it's not something that has to deal with the President. So that was the scenario we have, and the Assembly adjourned until on the 3rd, when the Vice President will be back in town so that he can deputize on behalf of the President, and tomorrow is the day on the 3rd. We are expecting the Vice President to appear before the National Assembly members so that they will debate over the speech that the President gave on Thursday.
Do you think the Vice President will do justice to the meeting, like for her to come in the stead of the President?
Actually, one has to understand, I don't know whether she is obliged to have the document with her to study or familiarize with the document because she was busy with other engagements at UN General Assembly. And she needs time to understand that because it's not a small document, it is a very huge document that she needs to study and understand what is the context of the document, because one could understand it's not her writing or it's not her message, it's somebody's message. So you have to find time to sit down and read this document to understand what is the content so that you will be ready. If any question comes in regards to that area, you can definitely explain, or you need to consult because it covers all the various ministries area, and maybe she didn't have knowledge about other ministries. And if she have any boards, she have to engage those people and ask them, actually I had this and this was in a ministry, how was it done, and what was the budget, because all these things could have come, how much was what was the consultation process and everything. So it's a huge document, she need time, but I think for me, she didn't have that time, because from the UN General Assembly and you come just the next day, you appear before the National Assembly members, whether you have studied or understand the document that you are going to defend, because it's more of defending what the president said to the Gambian people. So you have to be well prepared so that you can defend the document that your president has presented to the National Assembly. And for me, she didn't have the time that she could have to study the document.
So, Kex, at this point, I want to bring in someone. He's been away for some time, but I'm sure he's been following developments at home. Amadou Camara is a political analyst based there in Tennessee, United States. Mr. Camara, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Lamin Babanjai. It's a pleasure to be on your program.
So, first of all, let me ask you, I know you have been away for some time, but I'm sure you've been keeping in touch with developments as they unfold back home.
Absolutely.
What are some of the things that you have? What would be your assessment of the situation in the Gambia right now as regards the Barrow administration and how things are being, playing out?
Yeah, as I said, it's a huge pleasure, Lamin Babanjai, to be on your show. I have politely declined a lot of invitations to be on online radio programs because I am a keen fanatic of political discourse that shed more light and less heat on issues. And you, Lamin Jai, being an adornment of Gambian journalism, I know you are an embodiment of that sort of journalism which is responsible, which seeks the truth, and above all else, which try to keep Gambian public officials accountable. Coming on to your question with regards to assessing President Adama Barrow's government, my view about it is very simple. Barrow's government came into power hot on the heels of a dictatorship. So he was not, to be frank with him, and the challenges that he inherited, he was not dealt with a very good hand by his predecessor. But commenting on the specifics, Mr. Njai, of the issues that are rumbling on in the Gambia's political scene with regards to the issue that you were asking my co-panelists not long ago, which has to do with the issue of Barrow refusing to show up at the National Assembly after being summoned by parliamentarians or delegating his vice president or ministers. I think he is making a fatal mistake in that regard, because the National Assembly is the law-making body of the country. And more significantly, in the relationship between the National Assembly and the executives, the National Assembly is the senior partner in that relationship, because its responsibility is that it derives its sovereignty from the Gambian people. So its sovereignty is direct democracy, whilst the executive, its mandate, it's only derived from the people by only one man, who is the president, and appoint ministers who work with him, whose mandate are not derived directly from the people. So the legislature, which is the National Assembly in the Gambia, its senior partner in that relationship. So the president will cooperate with the body by making sure he go there and answer their questions and issues that they have to put to him or his ministers. so that in the end, you know, Gambia's democracy can move so smoothly as envisaged by our constitution. By refusing to appear, that is the president, Adama Barrow, or refusing to delegate a minister to appear to answer questions is a contempt of parliament, which violates the relationship between the executive and the legislature. And in fact, you know, if Gambian parliamentarians know their rule book very well, they will know there is a loophole that they can seize on and summon, you know, by force, the president or his ministers to come to parliament and answer questions by going to court and having what in legal terms they describe as a writ of mandamus. A writ of mandamus is a constitutional duty issued by a court to a public official to carry out their role and responsibility. So I think in that regard, Mr. Njai, the president is making a huge mistake.
But then let me cut you there. Then, what would be your what would you say would be the reason for the president's refusal to come himself to the National Assembly?
Well, I think it betrays lack of confidence in his programs and policies that he has put forward to parliamentarians in his State of the Union address. He is dodging scrutiny. He is betraying that he doesn't have confidence in his programs and policies. He is as well, in doing so, holding parliament in contempt, showing lack of disregard, disrespect, and also, you know, not trying to cooperate with them. That's what he's showing, Mr. Njai, to answer your question.
So now let me ask you of the issue of 5 years, 3 years, 5 years. We have seen what has happened in the past, you know, few months and weeks, from the brutal or from the bitter fallout between the party that made President Barrow to other issues. And we have also seen how the president has morphed into this human being, a human being who is also knowing or realizing what he really wants. Now we have seen someone who told us that he wasn't going to be staying for long. He was only going to serve for 3 years. And at some point, you know, he had this bitter falling out with the UDP. And now he is telling every Gambian that, you know what, whether you like it or not, I am serving for 5 years. And we have also seen how the coalition has disintegrated. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, that's a very significant question, Mr. Njai. What I make of it is very simple. Just to start with a joke, this is a president who describes himself as a political animal. And now it seems the animal has turned political in every sense of the word. You know, but interestingly, frankly, you know, we have seen a president who has been captured by the office and trappings of the office of being president, actually. But my view about this to Mr. Njai, it's very simple. Mistakes have been made since the coalition came into office. That's where we are right now. Let's just take a step back, Mr. Njai, and analyze this thing in context. The coalition agreement that we are talking about, which is the basis of the evidence that the 3 years Jodna advocates are using to force the president to respect his agreement, says that the president should only serve for 3 years when he comes into office, and then he should step down and organize elections after instituting reforms post-Jammeh. That was the agreement. But we are talking about a gentleman agreement here, because that agreement wasn't signed to give it a legal force. And that's one issue. So which means the 3 years Jodna are standing on a weak legal ground. That's
okay,
one point.
that's interesting there. That's an interesting comment there. Let me bring in Kex. I think Kex has something, has a repost to that. You've heard
Yeah,
what Mr. Kumar
I
said.
just want to clarify that the document was signed on the 17th of October. All the political parties met at Kairaba, and there's an agreement that they signed. It has to be very clear to the Gambian people to differentiate what is an MOU and what is an agreement. Before they formed the coalition to have a convention at Kairaba, they sat down and have an agreement which is called the 17th October Agreement. And in that agreement, it was clearly stated that any person who will emerge as the flag bearer of the coalition will serve for a period of 3 years, will not contest in the next election. During his tenure of office, he will not show any political affiliation to any other of the members of the coalition, and the person will not contest in the next election, and he must resign from his political party to be an independent. This was signed, chaired by Fatmata Tambajan. It was signed and sealed. There is no single political leader in this country that didn't sign that document. So that's what I want to just make it very clear, that the agreement was signed.
But then we've also seen UDP, for example, coming out when the coalition was meeting this Crunch Summit that was being held at Kairaba, UDP walking out saying the MOU was in fact not signed.
Yeah, they are talking, that's what I'm saying. The MOU was the working document, how the coalition will run the affairs of the coalition within the transitional period. So they have made everything in the document, how the Ministry of Works, how they will appoint ministers, how they will sack ministers. So it was, the Memorandum of Understanding is a working document. But I'm talking about an agreement why the coalition was even established, because there was an agreement before they will even start drafting all those MOUs.
But don't you think that's where the confusion is?
Yeah, but
the confusion, because the president is, or people who want the president to continue until 2021, that is the document that they are relying on, the MOU, that is not signed, so it cannot have any legal meaning.
You have to understand, what brings them together. That's what is important. The MOU is a working document. What did they agree until they established the coalition? They sat down and looked at these things. They said, yeah, now we are all different political parties come here and join together. So we must have something that will bind us together, that this is what we agree on. So they said, then what are the key things that you think that can unify us? Then let's have an independent president. That was clearly stated there. You must resign from your political party. Then you must show the people that you are not here for power hungry or anything, but you want to set a sample. For 54 years, this country has never changed through a ballot box. Jawara for 30 years, Yajame for 22 years. We want to end self-perpetuating rule. And how can you end that? Is that any person coming after Jammeh must set a sample to show the people that the Constitution empower me to serve for 5 years. Yeah. But I will set a sample that I will only serve for 3 years, so that any person who is coming after me the person will not overstay in power, but he will amend the constitution so that we will have a term limit, and you will only serve for 5 years or 4 years, and the next 4 years or 5 years you cannot contest again. There will be no self-perpetuating rule, because if we allow that, then any person who comes can just amend the constitution and say no age limit, no term limit, and we can continue with that. So they said who is coming after Jammeh must set a sample so that you will show that I'm not power hungry and I'm not here to show my might or power. It's not about an individual. This is about to set the sample for the Gambian people, to lay the foundation for the Gambian people. And we believe within these 3 years we can achieve all these things. So that's why when I hear Fatmata Tambajan saying the TRRC is not ready, the commission is not Barrow's commission, and the coalition never told Barrow that you must finish all your project. If we are to wait for Barrow to finish his project, then Barrow will continue for the rest of his life here, because every day there is a new project coming. When will that project come? So for me, it's about the TRRC is the Gambian, it is Gambian, and any government that comes will just continue from where they, and the recommendation will come and give. So it's not us to wait for Barrow, and they could have even done all those things within a, but ask us, when did they even start the TRRC? When did they actually start the Constitutional Review Commission? So they all delay until 2 years or 1 year pass, and they start establishing this commission, because they know fully well that they are not ready to resign at the 3 years time. So they are making a target. So they decided to sit down until they know 1 year has elapsed, or we are going into the 2 years. They start building all this commission. But if they are ready, according to the agreement or the programs of the coalition, the second weeks, 1 month, first 3 or 2 months, they would have established all these commissions, and by now we'll be talking about ending the time they will compile all their reports and tender to the president for recommendation. So for more, it was a calculated move from their end to delay everything they feel like. But the agreement, I just want to make it very clear, that's why I integrate, there was an agreement and it's different from the memorandum of understanding. So that's what I want him to understand.
So great clarification there. So Amadou, do you think it makes sense at all for President Barrow to leave office in December?
No, it doesn't make sense, and here is why. President Barrow was elected directly by the Gambian people in 2016, and he was elected by the people to serve for 5 years. Well, it will have made sense, if the coalition leaders, when they came into office, remember the UDP leadership was very much in the coalition government. Usainu Dabo was vice president. Halifa Saleh is still at the National Assembly, and this Halifa Saleh played a very important role in instituting the coalition. So if they were really serious for Barrow to serve 3 years, what they should have done, Lamin Jai, was that they should, immediately when they took control of the National Assembly, because if you look at the National Assembly, it's dominated by coalition parliamentarians. Then in 2017, after the parliamentary election, they will have passed a bill, which is like a law in the National Assembly, which was going to be passed because their parliamentarians dominate the National Assembly, and said that this is the law that we are going to pass, which says that the president is going to serve for 3 years, and after 3 years, he's going to step down where, an election will be organized. So that bill will now become an act, and then that will be able to supersede the constitution because it's going to be an act of parliament. That's how it should be. So that didn't happen. All of them then, were all happy, lovey-dovey, enjoying the coalition. Some of them were ministers. So now that they fell out with Barrow, they are instigating this 3 years Jodna thing. I just want to make another important point, Lamin Jai. The constitution of the Gambia should be respected by all means. It hasn't been changed by parliamentarians to say Barrow should serve for 3 years. Then why on earth should he step down after 3 years when the constitution mandates him to serve for a complete 5 years? I think that's the right thing for our country for him to do.
But the Constitution, Mr. Kamara, the Constitution also mandates the president to serve for one day if he likes.
That's what
he can serve for just a day or even a few hours and say, look, you know what, look, I cannot do this job anymore. Yes. That's also mandated by the Constitution. Don't agree with that?
Already, just to make this critical important point, already he has signaled to Gambians that he wants to serve his complete 5 years term. So he should be. Look, he should also take blame and responsibility. He is not like anyone who is immune from blame from this issue because he didn't handle it properly as he should. The way he handled this thing, he has proof that, he's inept, he is inadequate, and he's incompetent. Because since this issue came up, Lamin Jai, the first thing that a practical and a pragmatic president should have done is bring all the coalition party leaders together and have a meeting with them, signal his intention that he wants to carry on for 5 years, make it absolutely clear to them that after that 5 years, they will go for election so that the Gambian people can choose who they want to be president. He didn't do any of that. He has been quiet. He has been holding himself at State House, waiting for people to come to him instead of taking the initiative to tackle this issue head on, before it becomes a major issue. And I'm afraid now it's a major issue. He has some responsibility and blame. When I read reports, for example, that Halifa Saleh was not consulted, for instance, with regards to the meeting that Mrs. Tambajang, had with Barrow, it was a very good thing because Mrs. Tambajang was serving as a mediator or as a broker, between the coalition leaders. It was noble. It was fantastic. It was great. But, some leaders were not even consulted on such a major meeting. And I think Barrow as president should have gathered all these people together and tell them that exactly his intention so that they can go back to the people and dissuade them, discourage them from taking to the street in December to bring the Gambia on an unnecessary standstill. Mr. Njai.
So before I leave you, I want to ask you about the Janet Commission developments there. We've seen that investigation has since finished its work. The report has been submitted. The president it took the president 6 months to review the report, and there was this government-wide paper. And not all Gambians are impressed with regard to the steps that the Barrow administration has taken. What is your take?
Yes, just to pick on your point, you said not many Gambians are impressed that Barrow has taken such position, and I will say they have absolutely every right not to be impressed by the step taken by Barrow, because what is the point of setting up a commission if you are not going to abide by or respect or implement its recommendation? Then it is pointless. Then it is futile. Then there was no need for you to set up the commission. Look, the commission has come up with very sensible, moderate, and pragmatic recommendations, not least among them, banning some public officials from holding office. And I think these are people who, however talented they are, whatever contribution that they have made in the Gambia, were accomplices in the Jammeh vandalization of Gambia's resources, its property, and also its state institutions. And also, we are having institutions that the Commission recommended that they should not have absolutely no dealings with the government. For example, TK Motors and TK Export. All these institutions, were recommended not to have any dealings with the country because their procurement with the previous government was steady. It was marred by a lot of, backhand dealing between Mr. Jammeh, and some of these Lebanese business people. And I think, frankly, the recommendations will be implemented in full. I think they have done disservice to Jammeh, who they have taxed to come up with this report, wasting his time, his energy, and the resources of the Gambian state to come up with this report. I think they have done a disservice to the Gambian people by not resetting Gambian institutions the way the Commission recommended. And I think they have failed themselves because Adama Barrow came to power promising a clean break. And it seems we are reverting to the old Jammeh time, Mr. Njai.
Amadou Camara, thank you very much for your time.
It's a pleasure.
Amadou Camara there, a political analyst based in Tennessee, United States. So, Kex, you've had Amadou also offering his take on the Jammeh Commission there, saying the Gambia government or the Barrow administration has done Surahata Jammeh a great disservice.
Yeah, for me, I listened to my brother and I can't agree more with some of his argument. But going back to where he said that the Constitution says that the president must serve for 5 years, I want him to understand that you go to the section 65 of the Constitution, the president can even serve for 1 day, and the day you resume office, the next day you can say that I resign. And based on that, knowing that Barrow is a honest person, all the coalition members were honest person, based on that provision in the Constitution, that's why they said that the president will serve for 3 years. So it's left to Barrow to man up his words and resign. It's left to Barrow to say that no, I will follow the Constitution. And for me, my stand is very clear. It's about moral and legally. It's Barrow, if he wants, let him continue for the 5 years, and Gambian people will judge him that whether this is a person we can trust again to give him our power, because he has stood before the whole nation and said that I'm a president who will only serve for 3 years and I'm going back to my business. But now he has swallowed his word and he said he will continue. It's left to the Gambian people. If he decides to serve only the 3 years and resign, still now he's in the confines of the law. So there is no violation of the Constitution here. People have to understand that. Coming back to the Jammeh Commission, it's fantastic when government came with their recommendations and what we have seen in the Jammeh Commission and the mismanagement of public funds and so many things has happened, during the former regime issue, and they have came with recommendation. And we have to understand that, for us, everybody, any government want anybody who mismanage our fund to force the justice. But you have to understand that this is a commission of inquiry, and a commission of inquiry, anybody who is been accused, it's just like you have been accused and you have the right to go to the court and clean yourself, whether you can appeal against the recommendation of the government. And we have seen that on the 7th of this month, there are various people who have appealed against the recommendation of the Janneh Commission, that for them, they are not satisfied with the decision and they are challenging them to the court. So let's allow the democratic process of our country to flow, so that we will know the rule of law is there, because we are in a critical situation. And if we try to push so many things, people will see it rather than a witch hunt, rather than more of trying to see that justice prevail. And Gambia is in a very critical situation, and we have to try to unify the nation rather to divide the nation. So if they feel like they are not happy with the recommendation and they challenge it, respect their constitutional right that they can challenge it, let them challenge it and wait the court decision. And whatever comes from the judicial service, to let's respect their decision, that this is what the commission, the court has made, and that is the final stage, that apart from the court they can do anything. So we, for me, I'm very happy. I'm content with the recommendation of the government. Some, I see it more likely that other parts were harsh, like banning your citizen for life. It could have been 50 years, 40 years, but life is more, because people are now moving from this life. That's why death sentence and other things people are emerging from those things, because we see that they are harsh punishment. But you could have gone for 30 years, you will not hold public office, 40 years you will not, and you will pay back the money that you have done life. Everybody has at least an expertise in various areas, and our collective ideas or our collective knowledge build a nation. So, but if you exclude other people from the nation, automatically it will just delay some part of our development. But apart from that, I have no problem with the recommendation, but I feel like for life might be too harsh, in regards to the whole issue. But apart from that, and some of the selective justice that we have seen, you cannot just punish other people that, doing the same thing like others who you feel like you have to punish them, and leave other people. You say that yes, because of the ignorance of their office also. There's no ignorance before the law. It is very clear that that's why even an illiterate violate the law. If he goes to the court, you cannot say that because I don't know the law, because it's your responsibility to know the law. So there is no ignorance about the law. So for me, that's not an excuse. They could have, everybody should face the punishment if you are feel or wanting by the commission. But if you start to, discriminate and apply orders and feel, people will see it more of a witch hunt rather than trying justice to prevail. And those are the shortcomings that the recommendation of the white paper came with. But apart from that, I am satisfied with whatever they come with, and let's respect the democratic process. Whoever feel like he's not satisfied and he want to challenge the decision, let's respect his constitutional right. Let him do it, and wait and believe in our judicial system that justice will prevail, and they will do something that is they feel like that's what the court should do, and we respect the decision of the court. For me, that's my take.
Kex, thank you very much for that. But before we go, we have a few stories. September 28 is set aside and annually observed by UNESCO. That's UNESCO there as the International Day for Universal Access to Information. As part of events marking the day, the Gambia National Commission for UNESCO last Friday brought together media practitioners to engage in a day-long conference and open talk. The overriding aim of the event was to create a national discourse and popularization on the draft Freedom of Expression Bill and how to foster open societies and access to information. Fatou Cisse was there and she came through with this report.
The event forms part of celebrations marking International Day for Universal Access to Information. The Gambia National Commission for UNESCO believes access to information remains a critical component of the Sustainable Development Goals efforts.
Universal access to information is a fundamental human right that plays a pivotal role in empowering citizens, facilitating fair debate, and giving equal opportunities to all. It is a driving force for transparent, accountable, and effective governance, and paves the way for freedom of expression, cultural and linguistic diversity, and participation in public life.
The Gambia Press Union was happy to be part of this event.
Access to information promotes the right of every individual, all of us here, to seek and receive information in whatever we do. So my hope is that by the end of the day, after all these speeches and discussions here, we all go out, doors closed, we will have a better idea at least on what we need to do to always promote, and not just promote, but also safeguard access to information in whatever way we can.
The overall aim of the conference is to create a national dialogue and popularization on the draft Freedom of Expression Bill and how to foster open societies and access to information. Civil society officials say the event will contribute towards efforts aimed at ensuring greater access to information.
One of the misconceptions is that access to information is for journalists. That needs to die today. Access to information is a right that each and every one of us should enjoy.
This year will be the fourth since UNESCO marked September 28th as the International Day for Universal Access to Information. For the Fatu Network News Review, I am Fatu Sise reporting.
So, in what could be described as a development that brings to rest the debate over whether President Barrow's quest to stay in office until 2021 in contravention of the 2016 coalition manifesto there, key coalition stakeholders met with the president last Friday, where they gave the president the green light to preside over the coalition government until 2021. But despite the absence of UDP and PDOIS at the State House on Friday, this latest development apparently comes as a source of relief to the coalition government, which is facing threats of protest of resistance at the year, and that's in December. Well, we went out and about in town to gauge public opinion on last Friday's development.
The head of Coalition 2016, Fatoumata Jallow Tambajang, and some coalition party leaders met President Barrow at State House on Friday. It was at this meeting that they pledged to fully support the Gambian leader's 5 years ambition. The coalition chairperson said the reform project started by Barrow is yet to be completed and that this is why they have decided to extend the president's mandate from 3 years to 5. But what do the Gambians think? Here is what some are saying.
I'm really not in support of the 3 years Jatna, that campaign. So I think it's a good thing that they decided to come and talk regarding to this issue. Right now it's one of the pressing issues, and it is very important that they met and talk about it. But what I'm concerned about is why not the other parties join them to talk about it? Is it because they're really not in support of it? And I think when the decision was made, it was made by all of them. So when another counter decision is about to be made, and I believe they should all come together and talk about it. I think it's not a bad decision after all. It's about the peace that is important right now.
I don't think Gambian citizens, those who are definitely well versed in with regards of whatsoever, politics should be involved. Hence, they have seen the leading part of these people have already moved from that. They should also avoid being part of it.
Therefore, it will indeed be an accurate statement if I said that you are in support of President Barrow ruling for 5 years instead of the 3?
Yeah, I will definitely support Barrow to rule 5 years because there is nothing. They said coalition, it was transitional government, and there is no transition. We have seen Barrow sign an agreement. To be honest, that's not transition. So then he should rule. And after when Barrow step on, who will be the president of the Gambia? Who will represent the Gambia?
Actually, the president will respect his word. Let him step down by the end of the year. That's the MOU. Let him stick to the 3 years. I think that's what most of the Gambians want. If obviously fine, he still says he's gonna step. He's gonna continue until 5 years. That's not a problem. But the MOU says 5 years, and it has been told by everybody that it has been signed and sealed. So that's a deal. So when there is a deal up, for me personally, I will ask him to respect his word. Let him step down by the end of the year.
Man mom su nekkee man suma own decision la. Man mu continue 5 years bi moma gënal. because Gambia dafa am fuñ jógee dafa am lu xewoon tamit si Gambia te Adama Barrow wax dëgg ne yàlla am na lu bari loo xam ne génnee na ko democracy is number one wax dëgg everybody is free ku nekk mun nga dem fu nekk mun nga def lu la neex 3 years yi mun naa am ñoomi neen la coalition bi ñoo ko defoon agreement boobu noonu soo Gambia dem na si extent boo xam ne mun naa am gis nañ some changes dëgg la nag yëpp amut dëgg la tamit luñ defoon promise am na lu des waaye nag the time is very short to be frank enough time bi dafa tuuti wax dëgg yàlla man si suma gis-gis as Gambians nañ ko may time ñu seet 3 years dafa tuuti nit mënu see def lu bari waaye suñ ko mayee 5 years bi ñu seetal suñ boppa fu mu ne nii moom nekku ne da ngaa continuer 20 years nekku ne da ngaa dem 20 something years dañ am suñ right dafa am période boo xam ne président bi si ngay am 5 years bi nañ ko may suñ ko mayee ñu gis ne ñun suñ satisfaction at least even bu nekkul yëpp sax am na li mu si def ñu.
Hey, what are you doing here?
I'm going to replace my AfriCell 3G SIM card.
Why use a 3G SIM card when you have a 4G phone? Replace your 3G SIM card today for the real AfriCell 4G SIM and receive 1 GB of internet data for free.
Now, there are reports of threats of arson attack on the Gambia College campus buildings in Brikama, and the student union of the college is not taking lightly these threats. According to information reaching the FATU network, some unknown elements are threatening to set the college buildings ablaze as a result of a recent increase in the tuition fees for some college students for the 2019 and 2020 academic year. The FATU network spoke to the president of the student union there.
The Gambia government has reportedly paid heed to passionate appeals for it to maintain the $10,000 tuition fee for students who are already enrolled in the Gambia College. The government has previously announced an increase of tuition fees for students for the College School of Education from $10,000 to $12,000, a move that has not gone down well with the students.
It will affect the incoming students, that is the $10,000 and the $12,000. Since we received this news about the increment of the tuition fee, since the message was being shared, it didn't went well with the students of the Gambia College, which we are in solidarity with, in the sense that since we knew that like the tuition fee was increased, we later understand that the students didn't take it lightly, in the sense that they have a genuine reason for that. For the simple reason is that the tuition fee being increased, just like that, is not going to help the students, because most of the students, they are under sponsorship. So you will see to it that just a fortnight the tuition fees been increased. At that point, it will really not help. So what we did, our stance as the students' union was that we've engaged relevant authorities about it, and then thankfully today, it has been revised.
As a result of the increment in the tuition fees for students already enrolled in the School of Education, some students have created WhatsApp groups and other platforms to ensure the government reverses its decision. The government has done so, but the change of heart is not across board, and some people are threatening arson on the college buildings.
We've been invited to the Ministry of Higher Education, where myself, the president of the Gambia College Students Union, and then the principal of the Gambia College, the registrar, the chairman of the council, and of course the vice, and then also the president of the Academic Staff Association, were all present, where the minister made it very clear about the matter, because there were waves that students were threatening to burn the college. That is how serious things got, because students were very, very angry, and then it got to the point where some students were threatening to burn the college. Still, this group is anonymous, which many believe that they are not even students of the Gambia College. But our stance as the Gambia College Students Union, our stance as the president of the Gambia College Students Union, is that we are in nowhere supporting any form of violence being perpetrated by anybody in the Gambia College. We are at no point supporting that. What we believe in is dialogue. That's why the moment we were invited by the minister, I made this point very clear that the wave that is ongoing, the students' union have no stake in it.
But why would some people threaten to burn the college buildings when the concerns of students have already been addressed? And what is the student union doing about it?
This thing comes in two ways. One is that we believe that the students were frustrated by the increment of the tuition fees. That was obvious. And that has even prompted them to form groups, WhatsApp groups, discussing about how best they can resolve this issue. So the second thing is that our students' union, we take it upon ourselves to make sure that we use the right channel. The right channel is what? Dialogue. To dialogue with authorities, that's our power. That's what we can do. Our mandate is to serve the students, and we will do that up to the latter. But we will do that with due diligence and, of course, respect. But the issue is that when we employ the dialogue, it is very important the students appreciate that. It is very important the students hold on and then allow us to do the dialogue. The reason why we are there is because many are called, but few are chosen. We are the chosen people to lead them. We are the chosen people to speak for them. So therefore, it is